Kyle from All Media Reviews, here to continue Vinyl Collection A to Z. Vinyl Collection A to Z, video number 28, I think, because I have... Anyway. So, here it is. The almighty Rush, you know. I have a whole lot here, so hopefully I can get through this as fast as possible. And yeah, I mean, I might have more of Marillion, not sure, but there aren't too many bands / artists I have much more of a collection. Marillion's probably the one I have the most of, which is my favorite band, makes sense, but Rush is right up there. So, alright, I'll just kind of go through this as fast as I can. So, here's the debut album I have. I don't know what pressing this is, but of course, good record, you know. Blues rock, Zeppelin-like, Finding My Way, you know, What You're Doing is frequently always been one of my favorites on here. Working Man, of course. Here Again. There's some longer tracks on here, but it's not really them doing prog. But anyway, with John Rutsey, of course, the late John Rutsey. 74, you know, after many years, they formed in whatever it was, 68 or 69, you know, and Geddy Lee wasn't the original bass player. It was Jeff Jones, who later would be with Red Rider, who had the hit, you know, Lunatic Fringe. So I have what is a bootleg, a master bootleg, one of the most famous early Rush shows. They had the late Electric Ley Line, but this one right here, the Agora Ballroom in Cleveland, which came out, was December 16th, 1974, on the Garden Road. I can't remember if this was a record store day item or I just saw this at one of the record stores a few years ago, but it includes the Beatles cover Bad Boy, pretty much almost all of the debut album, self-titled, and then it has The Best I Can, which must have been an In the End. Actually thinking about this might have come out after Fly By Night came out. Anyway, I'm kind of doing this slightly out of order. But it also includes Fancy Dancer, which is a terrific track, and Garden Road. So those are those two songs that you can see. There's the track list. Anyway, so the first album came out, I don't remember what part of 74, but if I'm not mistaken, it was either that they put out 2 albums in 74 or 2 albums in 75. One of the two, you know. Anyway, so here's my copy of Fly By Night. I don't know if this is a first pressing, I doubt it, but very reasonable shape. Yeah, this is 75, so that was... This bootleg was before some of these songs from Fly By Night had come out, but I believe... Well, and that's the other thing about this. I haven't looked at this to see if actually Neil's on it or if it's John Rutsey, but I want to say Neil was probably already on this, but you know, I should know my Rush history more to the letter when Neil joined, you know, when he auditioned and stuff. It was obviously long after the debut album came out, but was on like Mercury or whatever, but the debut album. Anyway, this is the second album, Fly By Night. Great record. They would go on to do better things, but they were starting to do more progressive stuff. I love Anthem, Best I Can. By Turn the Snow Dog is their first sort of proggy track, you could say, in some ways. They would continue it on the next record. In the End, Rivendell, their Tolkien reference, and Beneath, Between, Behind. It's a fun record. It's them doing more of the blues rock stuff, but a little more drawn out, and they're taking more chances. But yeah, Fly By Night, iconic cover, of course. That was 75, so I think this was also 75. So here's my copy of Caress of Steel. I don't know if I would call this totally underrated anymore. I think for a long window of time, it was overlooked and underrated. I really liked this album for the most part from the first point I heard it. I didn't understand why people didn't like it. You know, the two big epics, you know, The Necromancer and Fountain of Lamneth, make it, you know, kind of iconic cover and everything, the tour down the tubes or whatever. And pay a lot of money for this. But, of course, it also has Bastille Day in Lakeside Park, and I Think I'm Going Bald. So, yeah, I've always revered this record. It's still considered underrated in a way that people talk about so many other Rush records, and I think it's... Even though they would, again, go on to do more things, this is them doing more progressive stuff. But that was 70... I want to say it was 75, or maybe it was early 76 when this came out. It had to be 75. You know, yeah, they put out those 2 records in 75, and that's, you know, they were at sort of a crossroads. And they didn't sell well enough, and the label we're going to drop them, or we're drop them, and then we're going to kind of call it quits. So then I've got 2112, of course. You know, the album they kind of went down with their guns a-blazing, or they had success and they had success. The suite, of course, The Oracle of the Dream is my favorite part of the suite, which is only done live a couple different times. Passage Bangkok, Something for Nothing, Tears, and a lot of people don't recognize or remember seeing the citation of, if you watch the, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original Gene Wilder version, it syncs up with this during Tears, especially. Charlie's mother, you see Charlie's mother and everything. Twilight Zone, but of course they're wearing the kimonos. They looked weird. Didn't really work for them, but it was a product of the time. But and I don't know which version I had. Dan, from Vinyl Fury was talking about his version. Isn't listed on Discogs. I kind of feel like the one I've got here's the Mercury pressing, of course, but I'll have to look it up. One of the most, among their top 3 most mentioned records. So here's my copy of A Farewell to Kings. The first sort of, and they're doing more progressive stuff using, synths and some of the bass pedals that Geddy used. But Cygnus X1 is my go-to, of course. I love the title track, the opening, from the get-go when I first heard that on the compilation, on the Chronicles compilation. But Close to Heart was a hit. Cinderella Man. Cinderella Man is, kind of under-mentioned, but it's terrific. Madrigal's decent. And Xanadu, while I think that gets praised a lot, is still an excellent epic. I mean, some of the lyrics are, we're dying on honeydew, but the sci-fi fan in me loves this, sort of sci-fi fantasy fan. Neil was writing about that kind of stuff, and just some, it's got many parts. Some of Geddy's highest pitched vocal parts, that maybe wasn't his natural range, but it still worked for the music, I found. But anyway, that was 77. So then I've got what was a compilation that came out sometime around that time. That was from New Zealand that I found a few years back. I don't know how rare it is exactly, but it's kind of a cool thing, and it actually has some of their other album covers. So this may have come out sometime in the 80s, actually. You look at the back there, it's showing albums from the 80s, but it only has music through A Farewell to King. That's why I put it here, but because it has Cinderella Man among others. Best I Can, Close to the Heart, Overture, Temples of Syrinx, Fly By Night, Bastille Day. But yeah, they never played down there though. That's the weird thing. It came in New Zealand. It was a collection from New Zealand, but Rush never played down under, I don't think. Maybe once. I know there was someone I met years ago online that was from Australia that never saw them because he believed that they never came there. So I've got, what is in effect, 3 different copies of one of my favorite albums of all time, Hemispheres. I've got a standard version. Again, I don't know the pressing of the age. I think this is the later pressing, but it's not a new pressing. And then I've got 2 other, kind of unique versions, but not that rare and not that valuable, I guess, according to Discogs. I have the picture disc, which I'll never listen to, of course, because picture discs don't sound good. And I got this. It was a big deal. I was like, this is on the back of the wall. It's like, oh, it's like the unique, But anyway, from Hemispheres. And I've got the, at one point at least, highly sought after, valued red vinyl. Red version, the colored version. But, kind of like the Wish You Were Here I've got, I figured this was kind of it's a gatefold. I figured this would be one that would have some monetary value. I mean, nothing's really worth it except for what someone's willing to pay for it. But I don't know, because it's not listed. I paid $30 for this, I think, and it's not listed for much more, being sold for much more on Discogs. So if you have like a sealed copy, maybe someone would be willing to pay more than that. But it's just weird. You see some of these records being sold for hundreds of dollars, even more. That archive record, you'll saying to me, they want $3,000 for. And this was supposedly pretty rare, but I guess it's not. It was rare. It's just, it's a more like revered version of of a Rush record over the picture disc especially. So, anyway. I don't know if it sounds any better because it's red. I doubt it. It came out in '78. That's what is listed on Discogs. So, all right. So I've got. This is a record store item. I don't know how many years ago. 4, 5, 6 years ago. The Cygnus X1, Cygnus X2 hemispheres on one record. This is cool to see. I was really happy when they issued this because two of my favorite pieces of music from one of my all-time favorite bands. It's a no-brainer, Cygnus X1, Cygnus X2, they're, joining pieces. So, okay. Permanent Waves, looks like I've got 2 copies. One of the looks like one of the department store versions. Featuring, it might be a first pressing, actually. 1980, early 1980, it came out the first month or whatever, like January 9th. I've got another version. I love this record. I mean, I didn't even talk about Hemispheres. Hemispheres is my favorite Rush record. The title track alone, the VS run, the Trees is great. Circumstances, absolutely love that. But this is another record more time has come and gone back to. I really revere it. Natural Science has been a favorite Rush track of mine, one of my favorite Rush tracks for 30 years, really since I was in high school. But Jacob's Ladder, Entre Nous, Different Strings is just mesmerizing. Even the songs they got on the radio, I don't mind so much. Spirit of Radio and Free Will. Entre Nous actually got a lot of radio play. I wish that song got close to the same amount of radio play as Free Will and Spirit of Radio. But yeah, it's a great record. Permanent Waves from 1980. I got 2 copies of that. Okay, so I only have 1 copy. I think I had another copy I used for my wedding downstairs. We had our centerpieces. We had records from all the different table. We defaced them and everything. I had Marillion on there. I had Rush. I can't remember I had a Genesis live album. But anyway, yeah. My one copy of Moving Pictures. It's a great record. It's highly well produced. The sonic, the sonic appreciation for it sonically is totally warranted. That being said, Tom Sawyer and Limelight especially, I've burnt out on. Even YYZ to an extent. I love Red Barchetta. I haven't burnt out on that track. The Camera Eye is a great epic. It's the last epic they really sort of epic that they wrote into Clockwork Angels. Witch Hunt and Vital Signs are okay. I mean, Witch Hunt is. I know the message is a little different than what the kind of tone. It's like a Halloween thing, but it's not really. It's like the burning a witch hunt, going after someone, a witch hunt, going after someone who's not really warranted to go after. And Vital Signs has their kind of police influence, that new wave, but I like those 2 tracks, but I find this record as a whole to not have as much staying power as many of the records, including Permanent Waves. I still like it. It's still a great record. But most people consider it their clear-cut finest work, so. And I have Exit Stage left, of course. It has a lot of the songs from, whatever it is, Farewell to Kings through Moving Pictures Live. And as a reminder, I don't have All the World's a Stage, so I still am lacking that. And a few others, not to spoil too much, but my favorites on this live album, I don't know, it includes Beneath, Between, Behind. Probably the version of Jacob's Ladder and The Trees and La Via Strangiato. I don't know. It's a classic live album. I've got this, of course, the Funko Pop that I showed. I should bring up my Police ones. I got members of the Police. But, yeah, I mean, it's their most well-known live album, I believe. Anyway. There was a Rush tribute band in town here for many years called Exit Stage Right. But, anyway, yeah, it's even though it's, different parts, I know, they added some stuff. A lot of people like All the World's a Stage more, so then I've got 1 copy of the album that followed that. That was, I think, 81 when all the Exit Stage Left came out. The Signals, of course, more electronic. They're getting into the synth period. I happen to love I love the synth period. I love most of this record itself. The Analog Kid is my favorite track, but Digital Man, the bass line's great. New World Man's a hit. Losing It is mesmerizing. The violin arrangement that Ben Mink did, from FM. Countdown, The Weapon, it's not a bad song. And Subdivisions, of course, that's a song that's constantly mentioned, although it's not been overplayed by radio, but very relatable. This is a fantastic record. I actually, from push comes to shove, I actually think I prefer this over Moving Pictures, which sounds like sacrilege to a lot of people, but the songs haven't been burnt out by radio, even New World Man. So I've got one single from that. I have the New World Man 12-inch single. It doesn't really have any big artwork. It just has the label artwork, as you can see, and it has Vital Signs as the B-side. I should have done that. Vital Signs as the B-side. But it's on Mercury, you know, came out in '82, just like, I believe, just like Signals itself. So then, Grace Under Pressure, my one copy of this. Great record. In some ways, it doesn't have as much, say, like, filler as Signals, if Signals has any filler, really. Because I like every track on here. Between the Wheels and After Image are probably my favorites, but love Distant Early Warning, love The Body Left, love Kid Gloves. Red Lenses isn't bad. And Distant Early Warning, Red Sector A, which were the two tracks that were on that compilation and did the videos for. Even though Red Sector A, of course, is especially very dark lyrically about, you know, people that were dealing with, like, Holocaust, like an image of, like, the Holocaust, kind of, you know, because I know Getty's parents were Holocaust survivors. But 84, you know, Grace Under Pressure, you know, I know it was produced by is it Peter Collins? I think it was Peter Collins, because they worked with Terry Brown for the longest time, and then they switched. I can't remember if it was Signals as Peter Collins, or was that, I forget. Eventually worked with Rupert Hine too, but so then I've got the 12-inch single for Distant Early Warning, I believe it is. And this is, again, no artwork, but just the label art, you know, label cover, and it's got Between the Wheels, which is, again, a favorite off of Grace Under Pressure of mine as the B-side. So DJs or whatever, I don't know how many DJs actually played Between the Wheels. They should have been, but that was 84 as well. All right, so then I've got, you know, Power Windows, of course, one of the favorite synth era albums. My recent revisiting this the last, like, 10 years, I feel like the synths get a little overbearing. That being said, Middletown Dreams is a fantastic song I've always loved. The songwriting's still really good. Territories is a favorite. You know, Mystic Rhythms and the, Marathon are frequent favorites. And Big Money, even, they played a lot live, so I'm not as keen on those tracks. Manhattan Project I like, although that's about the atomic bomb. Of course, we just had the Oppenheimer movie that came out. I think they reference it. Emotion Detector is another underrated track on this album. I've always liked Power Windows, but I feel like I liked it more 20 years ago or 30 years ago than I do now, but I still like it. I don't know, I mean, it's... The run is so consistent, it's all splitting hairs to me, you know, so... With Rush's catalog. So then I have this bootleg of Rush in Quebec from around that period of time, in '86, which, you know, they did a lot of that stuff from Grace Under Pressure and Power Windows. Yep, it has Grand Designs on it. You know, it has Manhattan Project, Middletown Dreams, of course. You know, the bridge in that section is just, I get to, every time I get so, like, goosebump worthy. Goosebumps show up on me always when I hear that song. New World Man, you know, Witch Hunt, The Trees is on here, Mystic Rhythms. I mean, I like Mystic Rhythms. Territories is spelled, looks like it might be spelled wrong. Tory, maybe that's the French way they spell it or something, because this is in Quebec. But, yeah, and Temples of Syrinx, you know, Overture, you know, Grand Designs, and In the Mood they end with, so that was Quebec in sometime, I think, '86. Yep. You know, the tour that Marillion opened for them, they may have been opening at that show, you know, if they came to St. Paul, but I was, you know, 9 years old then or whatever, in like April of '86 rather. So there's my copy of Hold Your Fire from '88. It was 88 or 87 rather. People think that this is sort of like the second, you know, the continuation but not as good version of Power Windows. I'm gonna differ a little bit. I really love a lot of this album. It has Amy Mann on a few different tracks, of course, including Time Stand Still. Just not a song I've grown sick of. The video's a little cheesy, but the song's great. Prime Mover, Open Secrets, Force 10, the opening track, Lock and Key is great. They did a video for that. Mission is good. Turn the Page. People don't like Taishan and High Water. I can take or leave them. I don't hate them. I can understand the criticism. You know, and Second Nature is another song I think I liked initially more when I got into this. I don't like it as much, but I mean, it's like, you know, splitting hairs between different Rush songs. But as a whole, I think Hold Your Fire is very consistent. Even, you know, the criticism it gets, I think, is a little unwarranted. But yeah, 88, that was the last, like, pure synth era album. So, of course, I had a little bit of an accident here. So I got a couple more. I have another single, no 12-inch. I have the Force 10 12-inch here from Mercury, and this just, I don't even know if there's a difference on side 1 and side 2. One's an edit and one's not. No, it doesn't. No, I don't think there's any difference. 87. I don't know why they put it on here. They do that. They used to do that sometimes with a sticker, but 12-inch Force 10 from 87. Maybe so they don't have to worry about which side they're putting it on. I don't know. So then I have the live album, A Show of Hands, the second Rush thing I ever bought. I got this through the BMG Music Club. They sent it to me automatically. I didn't know who Rush really was, but I really liked them that much. But they sent it to me anyways. I've always had a very sentimental attachment to that, though. The version of Subdivisions I've always loved on this. Getty does a little bit of extra vocal lines on it, and yeah, and I've grew to like it more. I also liked the way this was structured, where they took about 4 different shows, so they kind of interlaced it. So it wasn't just one night. I feel like we're getting a sense of the whole tour. I think some people are critical of that because of it doesn't have continuity. I don't feel that way, but Force 10's on here. Red Sector A, Close to the Heart. I do remember, though, when I got this, and I listened to it for a while, that first year or two I was into Rush, I was a little critical of it, that in fact it didn't have Tom Sawyer, because Tom Sawyer's their song. And I know there's a video that came out at the same time. I think I have it on I may have an official or may have a bootleg of it that I think had Tom Sawyer. Maybe it was like the encore, but because it's from Birmingham, England, San Diego, Phoenix. It's more than 4. It's like a dozen shows. I think it was a really creative way they did it. I know Jeff Buckley did that with Mystery White Boy, I think it was, or maybe it was Grace Around the World. I wish more bands would do that, where you can take tracks from different shows and it's just like a compilation of the tour. It's cool to see. But yeah, Birmingham, UK, Meadowlands, New Jersey, yep, San Diego, Phoenix, Arizona, Manhattan Project, New Orleans, Turn the Page. So yeah, I've always kind of, even though this is the 80s, like this kind of the end of the 80s, synth period, a lot of the real hard prog and metalheads don't like this period. I have a soft spot for it. I've always loved it. Anyway, so I've got, it took me a long time to find it, 2 copies of Presto on vinyl. So that may mean I may want to put one of them into the giveaway contest that I'm going to be doing, apparently, with all these records I have multiple copies of. But yeah, I love this album. To me, this is the final record in the consistent run, basically from the beginning of their career, at least from Caress of Steel. Show Don't Tell, Chain Lightning, The Pass is, sad melancholy. Someone's going to commit suicide. Anagram for Mongo is a reference to the movie, the Mel Brooks movie, Blazing Saddles. But Red Tide is totally a favorite of mine. It has that little Shakespeare line, this, let us not look gently into the endless winter night. But, that crescendo in the outro is just fantastic. Hand Over Fist at the bridge is great. Available Light, I know, was a fan favorite. A lot of people love that record. I mean, Presto, there really isn't a bad song on here. Warpaint, Scars, even. Superconductor's the only one that has a little bit of cheese to it. But I know this is a lighter, kind of thinner production. But I think the songwriting really works. I think Getty's vocal lines really work. He's kind of coming to his own, singing more in mid-range. And I've always loved this art record, Preston. I think it doesn't get talked about enough. It doesn't compare to the Moving Pictures, Grace Under Pressure, Farewell to Kings crowd at all. They just write it off. They there's a few decent songs. No, the whole record basically is great. So anyway, for me, I know the hardcore Rush fans agree with me, some of them at least. So I don't have the 2 records that followed this, unfortunately. 2 records? 3 records, actually. I still have yet to get those on vinyl, but at some point. I do have Vapor Trails Remix, the remix version, which, the truth is, I have never listened to it. I bought this. I like the songwriting on Vapor Trails, but I've never, I didn't like I didn't spend enough time to really get upset and have a problem with the production, but I knew the production, the loudness wars were noticeable on it. But from most accounts, people say that they completely righted the ship and corrected all the issues with the original Vapor Trails. So, because from a songwriting standpoint, One Little Victory, Ceiling Unlimited, Ghost Rider, Secret Touch, Earthshine, it's filled with a lot of great tracks. I know it's after the tragedy of Neil losing both his daughter and his wife, and that was like a 7-year break from Test for Echo. But I think it's it's not a fantastic record, but it's still a good record. And among their later records, I would put it up there. It's not my favorite necessarily, but so that's it for all the standard Rush. Then I have one more Rush-related thing, which could go with Dream Theater. This is, I think I showed this about 6 months to a year ago. Whenever I got this. This is it's a combination of 2 tributes. One of them is basically the Magna Carta Working Man Show of Bands tribute, which include many of the Dream Theater guys, pretty much all of them at the time in the mid-90s. Guys from Shadow Gallery, no one from Enchant though, oddly enough, because they have a huge rough influence. I know Devin Townsend's on this because it has, Natural Science, Devin Townsend doing the vocals on that. Sean Malone, the late Sean Malone. James LaBrie's on a few different songs on By Turn the Snow Dog. It's a great, mixture of musicians I liked and grew to like more. The versions are fun. They're interesting. They're a little different. The second tribute I listened to some of them, has Kip Winger, Sebastian Bach. The track list is a little more safe. It has a Farewell to Kings, but anyway, I showed this a few years. I got it basically because I love the Working Man. I don't know if they've actually officially. I don't think they've released any of the Magna Carta tribute discs. I have one of the other ones on another compilation because Kevin Gilbert was on it, I believe. But so to finish out the R's, I got 2 more. Yes. Yep. So I have Russian Circles, the debut album from one of the very kind of considered post-metal at the time bands. I don't think their music's really post-metal at all now, but this is their debut album from 2006, Enter. I said at the time, I still kind of stand by it, it's almost like Fates Warning or Rush doing instrumental music in some ways. In some ways not. I mean, Death Rides a Horse, Carpe, the title track, Micah, it's flows, it's just taking post-rock and using heavier riffs for the most part. But I don't get bored with this. I always enjoyed this, the sort of energy and the kind of the back and forth with some of it. It's all instrumental, Russian Circles. Their debut album from 2006, Enter. So then the final one I've got is, I've only got one record under this guy's name. This is Mike Rutherford's, I believe, debut solo album, A Small Creep's Day. Is it? Yeah, Small Creep's Day. And I know that the Tabletop Genesis guys did a whole thing on this. It kind of got me to go back to listen to this and pick it up. I've always liked it. It's not like the Mike and the Mechanic stuff's really. It's from what my memory is, I've always like this and Tony Banks' like first or second records. I found that the Genesis guys, when they left Genesis, put out better records than even the Genesis stuff at the time. So this came out in 1980, but yeah, this might be a promo. So maybe not, but. Anyway, because it's got a suite. So this is him doing 1980 Genesis, well, they did do the Duke suite, but they were leaning toward going more into a pop direction, of course. But he was kind of going back to the prog, if you look at the track list on the second side there. So, anyway. So that's it for the R's. I will try to go on to the S's, starting probably tomorrow, which will show them up on the channel maybe by Friday, I'm not sure. By Friday or early next week. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you next time.